Buenas tardes. Un anuncio para los que hablan español. Esta sesión va a ser en inglés. Si usted no entiende el inglés, puede pasar con nosotros al lado izquierdo de la sala para pasar por sus receptores. Gracias. Thank you.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the last final meeting of the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Bond Committee. Feel free to applaud. At this time, I'd like to ask one of the co-chairs that's present, Brandon Logan. He has a few words he would like to share with us. Brandon?
Thank you, Jeanette. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of the tri-chairs, just want to express our sincere thank you to all the committee members for your efforts. This has been a very fast-paced process, one that your respective representative has sent you here on a mission to ensure success for your district. At the same time, I also want to issue the charge for us to remind ourselves why we're here, which is to ensure that we have a package that we can put forward to City Council for consideration, and subsequently to our stakeholders, the residents, you and I, can vote on in May. So from volunteer to volunteer, I just want to say thank you for your time. I also want to express our gratitude to every citizen that invested themselves in this process. Sharing your lived experiences is very, very important. And before I take my seat, I just want to encourage everyone to have a great night of deliberation. Remember that we need to garner majority support for this vote. And so as you're thinking about projects, think about not just how it impacts your district and you individually, but how it will have an impact on the collective good of our city as we're moving to a greater height. So thank you all again for your commitment and have a great night.
Thank you, Brandon.
Jeanette, I want to thank you for the cookies.
We need all the extra sugar we can get tonight. Gracias. I would like to take a minute to let everybody know that as co-chairs, Jim and I have made a decision that we would like to encourage all of us to be committed to as long as it takes to get this done. And we may need to add an additional 30 minutes. So we don't need a motion. I'm just letting you know that we're going to extend the time to 8:30. We may not need it all, but let's just go ahead and know that we may need that additional time, and we will be here until the job gets done. Okay? So, someone just recently shared this quote with me, and I thought it was incredibly appropriate for this evening. Change happens at the speed of trust. Change happens at the speed of trust. So I want to thank you all for trusting each other, trusting us as co-chairs, and being that community member, that neighbor, that citizen that comes to the table, understanding that we're here to work together. Perhaps we're representing our individual districts, but at the end of the day, we are one community. We will walk out of this door at 8:30 something this evening. We will likely see each other elsewhere. So I want us to continue this wonderful spirit of community and collaboration that we have fostered throughout this process. And I want you to know, on my behalf and Jim's behalf, we are very grateful to have worked with all of you. 100, over 100 folks came down to the convention center, had to find parking, take the bus, get childcare, put away whatever life was presenting them. 100 plus people came to tell us what parks mean to them. Over 100, almost 200 comments were received from SA Speak Up, and numerous folks have watched. I can only tell you how many hours we've all worked. If we were to add it all up, that would be quite a consulting bill, wouldn't it, Jim?
Oh, goodness.
So I want to thank you because that time is valuable and we don't get it back. And so I'd like for us to consider that we've invested our very hard-earned time into this community over the course of this project. So the meeting is going to run as follows. I'll finish some opening comments. We're going to kind of go over the meeting agenda. And we're going to switch things up a little bit. We have a process that Jim and I have developed that has been founded upon your input. Those of you that are sitting around the table know that we have contacted each and every single one of your districts. We have spent several conversations with each one of your districts. We've heard what is important to each one of your districts. And so we have taken that, and you see that before you. We've decided that it's important for you all to have time to absorb that. We know, and just as a point of reference, I've been on the bond committee as a committee member, so I have been in your shoes. I know what it's like, and sometimes you need a little extra time to be able to absorb the information. So we're going to offer that to you this evening. We believe that we captured your message as faithfully as we possibly could. That is what you see reflected before you in the document. We know that there may be questions you may want to course correct, and you will have an opportunity to do so after the motion has been made, seconded, and we have discussion. As co-chairs, based on the information that we received, we have developed a message that we will be sending vis-a-vis the staff to the City Council and the Mayor. I'd like to read it to you, and we ask you to simply focus on the content, not on the structure. If you can imagine what it would be like to put a memo together with 32 people, you would understand. So I'd like to begin, and Jim and I will be taking turns in reading this. This is to the City Manager, and it's from the Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Bond Committee. Final recommendations. Attached, please find the final recommendations from the 2022 Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Committee. The committee respectfully offers the following insights and specific requests for action regarding equity, funding, project scope of work, and public art. Our first category is equity. Parks spending in some higher equity council districts over the last decade has dramatically exceeded spending in some of our lower equity council districts. We must continue to expand our park systems to serve new populations in faster growing, higher equity areas. We recognize this is the first bond cycle that has apportioned limited resources with the aid of an equity lens, and that the bond is only one of many tools that can address equity. We must redouble our efforts to affirmatively further equity in our park system to serve historically underserved communities. In order to begin to further these goals within the bond, this committee recommends a modest reallocation of funds for citywide projects and greenways, in addition to elevating several below-the-line projects to priority status. We strongly recommend that Council consider the use of other funding sources such as ARPA and federal infrastructure dollars to begin, in the short term, to immediately bring the overall expenditures by district closer to parity. We recommend that council earmark $5 million in ARPA funds to implement modest but impactful needs-based and equity-driven interventions in historically underserved areas. Council and staff should continue to work with the community to prioritize potential projects. We recommend that council earmark $1 million in ARPA funds for greater Wi-Fi coverage throughout our parks system. Jim?
Sorry, thank you, Jeanette. So the next topic is insufficient funding allocation. This is one we've heard over and over again in conversations with committee members. The current Parks Bond funding is insufficient for district-specific needs to be on par with the previous bond or to keep pace with the growing population. In 2017, 46% of the Parks Bond and 10.3% of the entire bond was devoted to district-specific needs such as community parks. By contrast, after discounting facilities that were in a separate package in 2017, only 23.1% of the Parks Bond and 5.3% of the total 2022 bond would be allocated to the same. So this puts us, the citizens of the bond committee, in the challenging position of attempting to ensure that all San Antonians feel served in this historically large bond cycle. There are critical projects that are not recommended for funding, and there is nothing that is not viewed as critical by some sizable population of San Antonians that can be easily cut, right? This is a really difficult problem. So, as Jeanette said, hundreds of San Antonians attended the standing room only bond committee meetings to express support for projects that are both recommended and not recommended for funding. Approximately 100 individuals and organizations took to the podium to make impassioned pleas for city leaders to understand the needs of the communities they represent through their comments. Nearly 200 SA Speak Up comments were received from citizens representing every city council district. We request that City Council consider a greater allocation of the 2027 bond to district-specific needs. In order to begin to meet the needs of citizens of San Antonio as expressed through our robust public process, we are recommending cuts to some citywide projects, design-only greenway projects, and one trail enhancement. Our greenway system is wildly popular and heavily used, so much so that in addition to expanding it to connect to neighborhoods and employment centers, over time, we must continue to add capacity to existing trails. We request that City Council prioritize the following with potential federal infrastructure dollars or other funding sources. 1, below-the-line design-only projects and pedestrian side paths, assuming you all don't elevate them above the line through this action. This is a draft. 2, construction of design-only projects. And 3, expanded capacity where most needed on existing trails.
We also heard through this committee concerns about scope of work. And so we are addressing that in this memo to the City Council. We find the scopes of work that have been provided for many of the recommended projects inadequate to make an informed decision about the appropriateness of the specific uses of the dollars. We recognize the need to fund capital improvements by recommended amounts or more and understand that the city intends to determine and or refine the project scope through a community engagement process, project by project, and requires flexibility in scope language to respond to community needs, volatile construction costs, and other factors. We also know from experience through past bonds that for various reasons, given the scale and complexity of this process, scope modification and communication difficulties can occur between initial project funding allocation and the ultimate project design and implementation. We recommend that City Council work closely with staff to determine a process by which bond committee members or council appointees of the current Parks Board be actively engaged throughout the scoping and design process to ensure that the institutional member of this Parks Bond Committee can help deliver the intended outcomes.
And finally, regarding public art, we find that while the committee supports public art, we will likely, through this action today, recommend a reduction in spending on public arts in order to serve, frankly, more pressing needs. Furthermore, the committee feels that public art allocation should be implemented as functional design enhancement, incorporated perhaps into shade features, benches, interpretive elements, paving, or other elements which enhance user experience. We urge City Council to request that public art components of the Parks Bond be termed design enhancements and implemented accordingly. Jeanette?
Thank you, Jim. So as you can hear and see, we paid careful attention to what you said. And we know that this has been a very long process with a lot of details. So I'd like for you to help us understand where you are in this moment. And we're going to provide you with an opportunity to reflect back to all of us what you're feeling, thinking, concerns that you might have. This is not the time, by the way, to make any motions. It is simply for you to share where you are in the process today, right now. So I would like to ask my colleague, Allison Cohen in District 10 to please start us off with a reflection on the process and any other comments, questions, or concerns you might have.
Thank you, Jeanette. This process has been enlightening. It's different from the last time when I sat on the bond committee in 2017. There are different criterias, there's different projects, but one thing that remains the same, and that's the passion from the committee members that want to make an effort to make our parks better. And that's been very reassuring for me as a committee member. So I look to everyone here to raise the right concerns for their districts, for our city, and to move forward with these recommendations that we have tonight for a good bond package.
Good evening, Joey Pavlik with District 10, and it's my first bond committee process, and definitely has been very enlightening from the very beginning. And of course, the citizen testimony has been one of the most impactful parts. But coming into this process, I know that our city, we could do a lot better in terms of access to public lands, public parks, and that's been big. I think us, relating that with citizen inputs, I think that's definitely a big concern for a lot of citizens, seeing that we do maintain access to a lot of free, open public spaces throughout our city, and invest in those areas even more, especially as we've seen, conditions and facilities across the city vary. And so definitely this process has been very enlightening, and I think very, a good process along the way. And hopefully in the end, we can have a, even better parks facilities across the city for the future. Thank you.
My name's Sean Sims, and I'm in District 10. And I basically see the parks as my free gym membership. I use them all the time. And being on this this committee for the first time, this bond process for the first time, there seems to never be enough money to improve everything that everybody wants. But after digesting so much material and seeing so much material change at such a rapid pace, I try to be hopeful that in the future, we will never lose sight of what needs to be completed and what can be added to basically make all the parks better for everyone. Thank you.
Art Downey, District 9. This is the fourth time I've served on a Citizens Bond Committee. And I think that every time it's been very educational and very enjoyable and a lot of work. I can't say that this was any less. In fact, it was probably more. I think that we have looked at a lot of projects, and we've seen that there's, as everyone has pointed out, never enough money to pay for everything that people want. But I think that this committee has done a good job of listening and reading and understanding. And I think that hopefully we'll have some good recommendations going to council from this committee. Thank you.
Marco Barros, District 9. This is the second time I serve on the Parks Bond Committee, and I've been very, very involved in building sports facilities for the past 30 years in the city of San Antonio. So I've been very involved in building soccer fields and flag football fields and you name it. And we have a lot of needs out there. One of the things that I'm leaving tonight with the great sense of pride, because we have all of you very committed to continue to work in your own districts. By the way, my interest is citywide. It's just because I live on District 9. The last time I served on District 1, but sports facilities are needed all over the city. I personally interest in building and creating all Pearsall Park improvements there and other facilities that we really need in the city. I also wanted to take the time to thank all of you for getting involved and stay engaged in the process with City Council, your districts, and participate. And my personal thanks also, I work a lot with a lot of the staff at Parks Department, and they're great people, very committed. I mean, I call them even on Saturdays and Sundays and they answer their phone. So thank you very much for all you do.
Hello, everyone. I'm Talat Shah from District 9. I'm happy to be here with you all. I do wish we had some more opportunities to interact across districts. I don't know if that means a lengthier process or a pre-process. I think that would have been quite useful, so we would have more familiarity with some of the projects that are not in our district. That said, I think this is quite an endeavor to take up. I appreciate all of you and the city as well for coordinating these efforts and the public for coming out repeatedly to advocate for their interests. A couple of things I'd like to just note is the imperative of maintenance. I think we have had a lot of comments from the public about parks that have sort of slipped down into unusable kind of at the unusable level. So I do think we need to have some clarity and communication with the public about how the maintenance happens, how they can prioritize some of the projects in their current parks that maybe could be addressed with maintenance as opposed to some infrastructure development. My particular interest is in expanding our green spaces, our wide green spaces. I'm a tennis player, so I appreciate the hard court as well. I'm getting into pickleball as well. But I do think it's wonderful when we have some open green spaces to endeavor. And we know how more and more rare those are. And I think we've made some adjustments to the budget to accommodate and support that. Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Andre Magnuson. This is my first time that I have served on a bond committee, and it's been one of the most eye-opening experiences I've had the opportunity to be a part of for the city of San Antonio. I stay pretty active civically, but have not had this opportunity. It's been, as I say, it's been eye-opening. When we had our bus tour, I think the thing that resonated the most with me in the entirety of the process, even though I'm with District 8, was how important it is to look at this through the lens of equity. This has been ongoing for 50 plus years, and it's not going to get corrected overnight. So it's one of those opportunities that we have to lay the pathway to make sure that the right thing is done and that we ensure that we take care to make sure that it doesn't continue, that inequity. That's the first thing that really resonated with me, especially when we went downtown and then went further onto the south side, east side, and west side of San Antonio. So the other thing I think that's really important is that we keep in mind that, as I agree with you about keeping up the maintenance, I think that we have some beautiful parks that have been had deferred maintenance, and as a result of that, it just gets deferred and gets deferred and gets deferred. And that the citizens that use those parks, they don't deserve that. So I'd like to see that corrected, and how we do that and going forward, I think, is going to be important. And then I think with greenways, I'm very privileged to live against a greenway. So I get to walk out every single day and I access the green space that I live on every single day. So having seen the changes with that, with the pandemic, I think every person that is a citizen that uses these green spaces needs to have access. They need to feel safe, and they need to have the opportunity to have some say about that. And I think it's something that the city fell in love with, and as we had opportunities to get out there and use it. So thank you for letting me serve. Jim and Jeanette, thank you for your leadership. I know that y'all have had a lot of balls in the air, and I got to hand it to you. So thank you so much.
I'm Chuck Saxer. Since we've all been talking about how many times we've served or whatever, this is my third Parks Bond, and I'm on the Parks Bond Committee. And so a lot of, not Parks Bond, Parks Bond, okay. She'll correct, there's our chair. So prior chair, new chair is at the other end. But anyway, the thing is I really think that that a lot has been done, and I'm very, very proud of our co-chairs and what they've done. I applaud their efforts. I support fully all four of their basic topics that they've talked about, and I'm proud that they're willing to go back to City Council and address it from that standpoint. The equity goes without answer. That, we can't make up 50 years in 1 or 2 years, but it's something that we all need to work towards. Insufficient funding, that's obvious from all of the people that have come and gone. That funding, though, is not just insufficient funding. It's not just for the bond program here today, but it's day to day due to the Parks Department. The Parks Department needs to have more funding, period. This idea of deferred maintenance and coming to the bond committees to satisfy deferred maintenance is wrong. The maintenance should be done based upon the normal bond process, normal budget process. The scope of the funding being inadequate, I'm fully in favor of the Parks Bond Committee and the Parks Board being involved in the programs, and I would encourage each and every one of you to become even more active with either of those programs. Public arts, I have to speak of one public art that I really am impressed with, and that is in Hardburger Park. They built animal blinds that are artistic, and that was the art project. To me, that's good art. The rest of it, or an awful lot of it in the city, is wasted. So I'm fully in support of what they talked about. I think that the plan that they have here that brought together from the input from each and every one of us is remarkable. I think that there will be some more minor adjustments, but I think that we have something that we can come together without having major disputes and be able to satisfy the needs of our community. And that's what we're here for, is to satisfy the park needs of our community.
Hello, I'm Oscar Cervantes, District 8. I want to thank staff for all of the work that they've done, not only the facilities, the parking, getting us all here, feeding us, everybody that has put these programs together. Thank you so much. It's pretty incredible. I mean, you sit down, you have all this paperwork in front of you, and it's so easy. It's so easy to understand. Jim and Jeanette, very, very well said as far as you were expressing my thoughts, as far as, the amount of detail, the scope. There's a lot of vague information, but I know that the staff in previous bond efforts, they put together these estimates and they've done a good job, with inflation and construction costs. They're gonna, they did the best job that they can, so credit to them. I ride the Leon Creek Greenway every day. And so as an older person, those people that don't use it, it's a shame how great this project is. The linear creeks, it's free of charge. It costs nothing at all. Get on your bike and ride and get healthy. So for those that are listening, get on your bike and ride. It's there for you. Please enjoy it. The city is building a tremendous creekway for you and your families. I grew up on the south side. I live on the north side. And so when I was younger, I felt let's just say the less infrastructure on the south side, but I live on the north side. So my heart is on the south side, and yes, we need everything, right? The equity has to come back for sure. I live on the north side, so I really benefit from that, but my mother's still alive, so a couple times a week I'm on the south side riding, and I ride on the north side. So if you see me, please say hello because I'm out there. Please enjoy the Leon Creek Greenway.
My name is Judy Gelhood, and I'm first timer. I feel like I need a candle. First time. So this has been quite an experience for me. Learned a lot. Very thankful to my partners in crime over here in District 7 for helping to lead the way. I know we've said it a lot of times, but I really also want to thank all the folks who came up to speak. It was eye-opening to me, both the passion, the interest, the kinds of things. Coming from school board universe, people handled themselves so well here and presented really great ideas for us to consider. So it was an exciting use. And I told one of our school board members last night, I am renewed in civic engagement, right? Like hearing citizens to be heard. I have a new faith in that from this committee. So thank you guys so much for that. I also just want to thank our leaders here. I couldn't believe when we got on our call on Sunday, that we were all so in step together. And that was really exciting to hear. So the kinds of things that we were talking about were exactly what you guys were thinking. And it also sort of renews my hope when all this big diverse group of people comes together and we land in some pretty similar places, right? So thank you all for your thinking, for coming at the table for both your district and your community. I'm a huge park user, from dog parks to Leon Greenway to the new pickleball courts at Fairchild, to all those things. So I'm so thankful for what we have in our community, and thanks for being open to investing in it.
Elena Guajardo, District 7. I personally asked my councilwoman if I could be on this committee because it's very personal to me. When I was a councilwoman, Woodlawn Lake Park was the most political real estate in all of District 7. And there were times we had very contentious meetings. And there was one time, there were two parks people, we were walking the grounds before the meeting, trying to prepare. And one of the gentlemen in the back, and I don't think he meant for me to hear this, he said, "I didn't get up this morning to screw up." At that moment, all the parks people, and I hope you all are listening to this, and Eric, you became human beings to me. You strive with so much competition. You strive to do better because you live in our city. You utilize our parks, you utilize our streets, our drainage and everything. It is very personal to you too. We come with difference of opinion and we can have healthy debate and conversation. But that one comment, and that's why I chose this, I said, please put me on parks, because it became so personal to me. Secondly, the one thing I find very disconcerting regarding our process is that we've had such little lack of time to communicate amongst ourselves. I applaud the over 100 people, but I still don't know. And a survey really didn't tell me, and getting it, I mean, I never saw the survey thing. I walk in, I'm driving out from out of town to get here. It's like, I didn't get to sense where you were coming from. And I missed that. I really miss that. And it's sometimes only in the comments, yes or no's, that it's like, I'm getting what they're saying over there. So if I have one comment, for me, it's like, I miss that interrelationship amongst ourselves. Applaud everyone coming here, but I didn't get to meet you across the table. One last comment for me. There is one, and I don't know how to do this, Jeanette and Jim, but at the end of the process, there is one project that I do have red flags on personally. And when I was listening to the streets last night, there was a way to add a comment to the memo to the city manager. I do not want to pull this project. It's way late into the thing, but I do have some red flags that it's like, at least I could sleep knowing I did say something. Because after this, I can't say anything. And it's not in my district, but I do have some red flags. And so if I could, at the end of me, I'd be very concise about that. Thank you, everyone. Sorry I didn't get to meet you more personally in the comments, but my loss también. Gracias.
JD Morales, District 7. This is my first time being on the bond committee, so much admiration for all of you and all of our residents and citizens, our co-chairs being out here kind of giving guidance, information. Is definitely overwhelming, and you just take a step back and kind of visualize everything that goes into it, and just the amount of importance that we are putting into it in all of our meetings, all of our time up until this point. I had several other comments to say, but I think Elena and Judy both stole my notes. So I will go ahead and finish there. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Oscar Santos, District 6, first time for me. Just want to thank everybody that is on the committee, all those co-chairs and the whole staff behind. I mean, you know, it takes a big effort, and I want to thank you all. Thank the citizens that also came out and spoke. I think that's very refreshing to see that, okay? I'm a details guy. I've always been a details guy, so bear with me while I give some insights, maybe for future, if not current, okay, feedback. The committee scope, what we do, we focused a lot on the dollars and maybe the project without the details. The city gave us the recommendations on details, what they call project scope details. We should have more input in that. Our citizens deserve more input. I think we should also input the priority. Each of us have somewhere between 6 and 9 parks in our district. What district park do you want done first? Or do we just leave it up to chance? Damn it, we're part of the organization that can dictate that and should give some recommendations, okay? Let's do that going forward. Again, feedback, positive and negative. I'm not trying to point out anything. The bus tour, it was a great bus tour. But you know what? Nobody in District 6 had a park that you guys visited. We should have 10 stops, one for each of the districts at least, and then the citywide ones, whatever time accommodates. Okay? We voted for District 6 parks, but it wasn't on the tour. I think let's make it equitable to the entire citizens of San Antonio. Okay? I've asked for this in the past, and maybe going forward. We all got PDFs. PDFs are good to read. They're just pictures of Excel files or PowerPoint files, okay? In addition to the PDF, because we're not all trained electronically, give us a copy of the Excel or the PowerPoint that you used so we can look at it and filter it and see it and look at the details. I had to make our own Excel spreadsheet based upon the PDF that I had. So help us so that we can help ourselves better on those details. The last thing I want to do is the communication for our citizens that came out and spoke. Did we hear a TV commercial, a radio, or was it all internet kind of based? There's a lot of citizens that do not have what we take for granted sometimes. Let's make sure that we add at least 1 or 2 commercials to that. Make them feel like they're part of the city. Don't exclude them by just ignorance on our part. We should also have smaller city employees, guests coming over to speak, but by district. I was listening to some other district guests that were speaking that were not in my district. Well, you know what? Am I going to put a lot of attention to that district comments? No, I think we should focus, each of us should have an opportunity to have just your people speak on your parks. That way you focus, you can ask the questions, you can get the details that you want. And then we can also have a citywide one or a regional one, like we did. But I think we put too many eggs in that basket that we kind of ended up with scrambled, you know what I'm speaking here. So let's learn from what we've done, and we've improved a heck of a lot from 2017, what I hear, but we can still make it better going forward. Those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Marco Tenorio, District 6. I am also a first timer, and to say that this is a lot of information and it's been overwhelming is probably an understatement. But I would like to make the comment that, or to the citizens that came up and spoke, I was amazed at, just from talking to different committee members, how much of that information was absorbed. So whether their recommendations fall above or below the line, I do want them to know that they were heard. And just thank you for everything, and thank everybody for being here.
So good evening, Richard Delgado Jr. It's a first time on the bond committee. I've been involved on the other side of the table, right? And I'll point out, because I know there's a bunch of us in the room. So LSA really got me thinking about how I can better my community. So that's kind of why I'm here. I called my councilwoman and said, I want in. How can I be involved? Some comments. One, thank you to everybody that served. I mean, this is truly what makes our city better. We all have a different lens in how we look at things. To the citizens that spoke, thank you for taking the time to come out and voice your opinions. Now, to the other side of the coin. I will be quite transparent. Those that know me, I'm always willing to cause a little chaos. And there was some comments that I made that I got several emails. I'm not going to say the organization or who or what, but I got some emails that, in my opinion, should have never gotten to me because of my comment. I am not scared to voice my opinion. To me, when an organization does that, they try to stifle you, in my opinion. I've seen that in many different ways. And to me, that's unheard of. So that organization now does have a mark that I'm going to go chase after. With how this ended, I am not happy with either. So when we met, thank you to our co-chairs and taking the time to meet on a Sunday, but to get this a couple hours before the meeting, I think is I'm not happy with it. I have a full-time job. I didn't get a chance to really get in here the way our committee, our district wanted to do, because we didn't get it. We tried to get here early. I got caught up at work, right? So to come in at the very last minute to do that, and to me, again, we're kind of forcing our hand to make some decisions at a very critical time. The other comment that I have is we gave more time to those larger projects than we did to our own citizens. And I have a problem with that. And here's why. Most of the organizations that came up to speak have multi-million-dollar fundraising people behind them that can go do that. If you think about all the comments that we heard from our citizens, there is no other option for funding. And even today, when I see what we're about to vote on, there's still some big projects that should not be on here. So again, thinking about that in the lens of how to move forward. So I'm not just going to complain. I'm going to give a solution, right? Is we really think about that moving forward next bond cycle. Is we figure out how to do this time. And if we're serving, I'm more than willing to stay till 10 o'clock if a citizen on the other side of the table is going to stay till 10 o'clock. So looking at in that transparent lens where we have to give equal time to those bigger projects that have a fundraising arm and a philanthropy arm behind them, and then those projects that are crucial to what our citizens want to see. So again, I am honored and privileged to be here with you all and share the dais with you all.
All right, I'm Sarah Zimmerman. I live in District 5. I'll keep this relatively short. I have really enjoyed serving on this committee. I think one thing I really learned from this process is that, and from what I heard from the citizens and y'all, is that a lot of us really are more worried about those regional projects and those district projects rather than those big citywide projects. And I hope that throughout the next bond cycles, those can be kind of where the focus goes, especially because our city is so big. So like who really from the south side is going to drive all the way to District 10 for a park or vice versa? Especially if transportation is an issue. So I would like to keep that in mind for further bond cycles, because that's what we really heard from our citizen. People are talking about their park and their district needing those things a lot more than those citywide projects. Otherwise, I'm excited about this focus on equity, but I'd like to remind everyone, as someone who has worked in nonprofits and education, a lot of times those just become buzzwords and excuses for inaction. So I'm excited to continue to collaborate with you all to make sure that equity isn't just a buzzword. It's not something we just throw around to continue to give developers money. And instead, that is something we use to make sure that people have access to green spaces in all districts. Otherwise, this has been really cool, and change happens at a local level. I think we see a lot of people who are frustrated when they vote a certain way on a state or national election and then, oh, nothing happened. Well, here we are. So I'm excited to continue to work at a local level with y'all and hopefully encourage other people to do so. Thanks, guys.
Good evening, Ray Morales, District 5. I'd just like to say that I'm honored to serve with all of you. You have been very generous with your time and your equity comments and have listened to the citizens here who have made passionate pleas for their areas, for their parks. We have a unique opportunity to address the historic inequities that past policies have created for the city. And I think we're well on our way. And hopefully the result of this committee will help us transform some of these neglected communities. I'd like to thank the citizens that presented projects that did not have large fundraising events or large groups. The individual citizens that I really listened to and I learned quite a bit from. So the citizens, for sure, but also the parks people. I really enjoyed the tour. I learned a lot from Homer and the rest of the park staff, the city staff, and it just makes me appreciate more how dedicated these individuals are. So thank you again, and hopefully we can reach something really good.
Buenas tardes, buenas noches. My name is Graciela Sanchez. Thank you again to the co-chairs, your attitude and your true belief on equity. I think you heard us and you continue to figure out ways to get us to some of our goals. I know even in the comments that you're proposing to give to the city staff, you know, I was at least at 2 separate meetings talking about the lack of funding from the 2017 bond and the 2022 bond. And finally, I heard that reflection back to me, so that I'm glad it's in your statement. Like other folks have already said, it was very fast. 2-hour meetings, even 2.5-hour meetings weren't enough for us to hear from the citizens, to have them come out, you know, 50, 100, however many showed up at each of those meetings, and those that didn't speak, and then just to be told, because there's so many of you, now we're limiting you to a minute. I've been on the other side, and I write my speech for 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then when I'm told to cut it down, that really loses, you know, and you've worked so hard to get yourself here. So if we can expand for the parks, knowing that parks is one of the bonds that people are most passionate about, how do we have more meetings? And as Elena also mentioned, how do we get to know each other? And how do we even have more time also to spend visiting more of these spaces? Because we, again, had them select, for a 4-hour, 5-hour day, but we needed to explore a little bit more. I know that I hope that we do, as others have said, not just talk about equity, but really do it, really challenge that. Because again, there's some parks that have all the shiny, sparkly, stuff, and others, again, you don't see any grass. You look for plastic covers and for shade rather than the beautiful trees I see in so many other parks. And it's like, how come we can't have these beautiful trees rather than that little plastic tarp that's going to fall apart in 5 or 10 years? I know they did a lot of work on Elmendorf Park, but when I do the creekways around Elmendorf Park, I go a mile, 3/4 of a mile, and I dead end into General McMullen, and there's nothing on the other side. So we don't sadly have our backyard with the beautiful green ways that other neighborhoods do, and we deserve them as much. And our communities are the ones that suffer the most with diabetes and such. And again, I'm hearing from community members, even though we're 10 minutes apart from this park or that park, but we have to find ourselves driving to another park where they have a swimming pool that actually works, because the one that we go to is shut down for a year or 2 years. So thank you all. I really loved, even though we didn't get to know each other, the attitude, the atmosphere was very amable. And even though we didn't talk, I really enjoyed the smiles. Usually when I talk, people are frowning and angry at me. And District 8 was there smiling right at me. So thank you very much.
I'm Mary Catherine Luna from District 4. We have a proxy in this evening. One of our members has been ill, and I was ill last week, and so we're trying to get our 3 votes this evening. But this is the 4th time I have served on the Parks and Recreation Bond. I started in 2007, and I am the past chair of the Parks and Recreation Board as of a week ago, and we have a new one, Allison. And I think this is the most different bond committee that I have seen in the 4 times I've served. Okay, so I am happy to see that we are finally looking at the equity and scope of the projects that are included in the bond. San Antonio is the 7th largest city in the United States, and as we continue to grow, we are losing a lot of our green spaces to new developments. Therefore, it is very important that we continue to improve all of our existing parks, both major and neighborhood, including existing sports facilities for both seniors and young children. And I would like to say that I would like to see more district projects in the next bond committee than I see city, because I think the city can maybe support some of their own through general funding or whatever. And I think the districts should use this time to get their projects in, because the parks need to be maintained and upkept for the people that use them. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Amy Hoffman. Unlike her, I don't have bronchitis, I had laryngitis. I don't know what's going on. So this is my first time on this committee of bond, but I did do North Sides twice. And so with that, I learned a lot. I learned about our school districts and how things worked. And so I was interested in learning more. So I asked our councilwoman how I could help, and she gave me the opportunity. Usually I'm the talker, and in this situation, when I don't know anything, I'm usually a listener. So that's really what it's been. It's just been listening and learning and trying to digest a lot of information that's just foreign to me to look at. I agree in the fact I wish we had gotten to talk more, especially after the citizens spoke, because I felt like being new, it would have been really nice to hear from people who've done it a few times. Like, just their kind of their perspective, right, of what we've done in the past, and things that they felt were important. So I would have really liked to have gotten to know people who have done it a few times just to get your experience and your perspective. I do have 5 kids and I do scouts. So outdoors is kind of my thing. I've learned a lot about what our city has to offer, more than I even knew existed. But looking at the area and the districts of where Greenwell trails have been built, I sadly then realized District 4 has kind of been left out a little bit. So I am excited that we have a lot on this bond that will kind of help our area get up and moving. So I'm excited for that. So again, thank you so much. It's been really fun.
My name is Otto Garza from District 3. This is also my first time involved with city government or any type of project. I was just hoping there wouldn't be any politics involved, but I think I was wrong. But anyway, my wife and I have been involved in public and private Catholic schools in San Antonio for over 44 years. So anything that has an educational component in any project, any park, any facility is going to be highly supported by us, because there's no better way to get our kids to learn than by hands-on experience. All I ask is that hearing everyone from the past 3 meetings, and thank you to all the ones that have contacted me personally, have texted me, have called me on the phone, asking for my input and opinions. Thank you for your support as well. But it's very easy to get political and start using compass points for a lot of these projects. It's too easy to point that finger, go, well, how come they get that? Well, how come this side didn't get it? And this side is always, when this side behind me is always left out. Let's not use that to think and point. Let's think about what these projects, these park projects can do to benefit the community as a whole. Let's not just think about where it's located. How is it going to benefit the community? There are a lot of supporters for parks and trails. My son and I use the trails a lot for biking. We live on the southeast side, of course, in District 3. There's plenty of opportunities out there. I don't want to start pointing fingers either, but there's big projects that we're looking at, and we ask for your support on those projects because they do include educational components. And we're very supportive of that, and they will get our vote when the bond comes up for consideration if it includes that educational component. But thank you very much for your time.
Hi, everyone. My name is Karen Burgard, and I am representing District 3. And I'll try to be brief because I know we still have a lot of people to hear from. I just want to thank the citizens of San Antonio, the over 100 who commented or who came to comment, and the over 41 pages of comments from SA Speak Up. I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was beautiful that we had this many people who care so much about our parks and our spaces. Like, it was wonderful. So I just thank all of them for voicing their thoughts. I want to thank the chairs for running great meetings, and I want to thank the city staff for the quick turnaround on all of these documents. Every question that we had, that was wonderful too. But really, I want to thank this committee for your thoughtful and insightful comments. All of the questions that you all had, they really made me think and reflect. So thank you for that. I do have one recommendation. Maybe when this is all done, I know several people have commented on ways to streamline the process for the next one, or to make the compilation of the data a little bit easier to digest. So if we could maybe get a survey or a questionnaire after this is all over that could provide insight to the next bond cycle that might streamline this process. Thank you to everyone.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Ariano, and I'm also from District 3. I just want to say from the very beginning, when our councilwoman asked me to serve on this bond committee, I always think about our kids, and not just our kids, but our grandkids and our great-grandkids and the future
not just us that are walking the trails, getting on the bikes, walking at our community parks. We have to think about the next 50 years, the next 30 years, not just today, tomorrow. So that being said, and I want to thank Janet and the co-chairs, Tim, for your leadership. Thank you so much for always thinking about one step ahead of us, for allowing us to serve on this committee, because who knows who would be making these decisions for us as a community. It would be the council people and not listening to us as a committee and the citizens of our city, because we are the city. And I want to thank, and I also want to remind the parks, and I want to thank them as well, that when we build these buildings, we build these parks, we have to ensure that we continue to maintain them. Because what good is it for us to spend billions of dollars if we don't continue to maintain them? Whether it be a football stadium, it be a baseball field, a soccer field, a park, a trailways, it doesn't matter. We have to continue to maintain them. Because why are we spending all these billions of dollars and then you let them rot? We're wasting our money, because then we have to work double and spend more money on those parks. And I want to thank everyone here for being on this committee, because I am retired, so I don't have a job. I do have a job. I work at our church, but for those that are working, I can't even imagine having to read everything that you had to read, and 30 minutes before to be able to figure out what happened, but thank you everyone for serving. Thank you for all the citizens that came out and spoke, and thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Good evening. My name is Donna Watts, and I'm with District 2. And this is my first bond program committee as well. First, I want to thank the councilman for selecting me to be on the committee. My co-workers here, Hakeem and Steven, I've enjoyed working with them in the communication flow that we've kept throughout this time. Working with Jeanette, Jim, and David, they've all been very professional. I enjoyed meeting them. Like some of the others have said, we didn't really get a chance to meet everyone on the committee, but it's been a pleasure just working on the committee. I moved to San Antonio in 2008, and prior to my injury in 2018, I spent a lot of time in the parks all over San Antonio. I don't know if some of you remember the Fit Pass program through Parks and Recreations, but it was an excellent opportunity for you to get out and go to all districts to experience the parks and recreation. So I did that a lot, and hopefully one day I'll be able to get back out there and do those things. But one thing I can say, it was not easy trying to maneuver to come down to the convention center, being handicapped, going from the Lila Cockrell Theater to here. It was a challenge for me, but coming in each time and seeing all the passion and the interest from all the citizens just motivated me, and I really enjoyed seeing that, and it's just worthwhile to go the extra mile to get what's needed in all our parks and recreations. I tell a lot of my family and friends how beautiful the parks and recreation facilities are in San Antonio, and how families who can't really afford to go to Six Flags or SeaWorld, they can actually get out and really enjoy the parks, the splash pads, just all the beautiful facilities in the parks with their kids. So it's been a great experience for me. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Hello. Okay, awesome. Hello, everybody. My name is Stephen Lucky, and this is literally my first meeting. I got here like 30 minutes ago. But I am happy to be here representing District 2. I am a fanatic of the environment and green spaces, and so I just prepared a really short talking points. Essentially, from an outsider's perspective, all I can do really quickly is crunch the numbers. I have the spreadsheet. Again, we got this a little earlier. Looking at every district, it's ranging between the lowest, which is District 7 at 6.375 million, and then the highest, District 1 at 16.6 million. That doesn't include the 135 for citywide and the 28 million for regional projects. And then I broke those down on an average per district. The lowest district is D8 at 1.13 million per project, a total of looks like 6 projects. And then the highest, which is closer to 4.15 million per project, District 1, which has 4 projects, and a cumulative average cost of 4.9 million across the entire city and 67 projects. So, I mean, for the most part, it seems like it's pretty well balanced. There are some districts that are on the short end of the stick, right? District 2 has 6.75 million, but District 1 has 16.6. Again, this is not including the citywide and regional projects that benefit everybody. Just looking at the numbers briefly, that's what I see. Again, I know that everybody has put in a lot of time for this and effort. From the outside, it seemed it was a little of a rushed process when you see the advertising for these community events and then the voting tonight. So it seemed like it was a little bit of a rush process. And I think somebody mentioned maybe some commercials or billboards, just a way to create more awareness throughout the population, especially when we're making such a monumental investment for the next 5 years. So I think a public follow-up process for all of this would be beneficial, leading through these projects, and then hopefully more awareness leading up to the 2027 bond. And also, how can we leverage these funds to bolster sustainability and the resiliency of our city? I sit on the Climate Adaptation and Action Plan Committee, and we are tasked with implementing SA Tomorrow and the CAP strategies with the Office of Sustainability. And so Parks is in an amazing position to help achieve our climate-ready goals. And we need to continue investing large sums of dollars like this into green infrastructure for the present and future generations. I'll end with saying that I use the park system as often as I can, lifelong San Antonian, and clearly not all parks are created equally. As we continue to invest in our green spaces, I'll encourage us to create gems like the Phil Hartberger Park in every quadrant of the city. I shouldn't have to drive to the north side to utilize such a beautiful facility, right? It should be on the south side, it should be on the east side, it should be on the west side as well. And we're in a critical period in history. Reconnecting to nature and maximizing ecosystem services will only elevate our city in the short and the long term. So thank you all for your service. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And I look forward to helping our city grow in an equitable and sustainable manner with our park system.
So I commit, if I ever run for office, I'm going to hire you to be a speechwriter. So all those who said they didn't have enough time, this man literally joined this committee today and had enough time to at least write his speech. I'm not saying as far as judging you all on analyzing the information. So Stephen, shouts out to you. But Akeem Brown with District 2, I'm just excited that we've reached this point. I'll ditto most of the comments and be extremely brief by saying thank you to the leaders of this committee. Your leadership has been phenomenal, from the calls, the emails, and just hearing us out. I appreciate that. This is my second time serving on a bond committee. The first was not Parks, it was the Housing Bond Committee, which I like to say made history, and I'm proud to see what's happening with the housing bond now. But the opportunity for you guys to listen, take the time, although it was rushed, right? Only 4 meetings. How do we make these decisions so quickly? You kept checking in, and I appreciate that. Leadership is not a position, it's a process, and you ran this process well. I want to say to the city staff, haven't served at city staff level, hats off. Hats off. Every 5 years you guys do it, but you do it every day. And I just want to thank you. So to Razi, to Eric, to Homer, John Paterick, all of you, I mean, you're whispering right now, figuring out things. I mean, all of you, and then all of the guys who actually, and ladies who actually do the work, park staff, which is not really stacked up today, but, I shout out Homer, but the guys and ladies who do the work, thank you so much for getting it done and crunching the numbers. David McCary, your leadership is phenomenal. I've said that for years. You continue to do great things. So thank you for your leadership. My comments is, I agree with Elena. I think, Elena, you stole my speaking points once again. But just the fact that the process was rushed, we could have spent more time getting to know each other would have been great, right? Learning more about each other's projects, and me spending some time with you to tell you why I think District 2 projects are important would have been great. But also why I am a firm believer in some of our regional and citywide projects, right? I know some of us are having that battle because of transportation. I heard Graciela, and I agree with you 100%, Ms. Sanchez, around, why do we have to drive? And if we have to drive, why is it not accessible in our community? And so I agree with you 100%, but we're trying to fix that. As a VIA board member, I'm telling you, we're trying to fix that. I want people to get on the bus and ride via Central and hit Hemisphere. I want people to go to the zoo. I want people to experience what's beautiful about not only my district, right? Because the zoo is in District 2. Hemisphere is in District 1, but guess what? We got sunken gardens. And we do have botanical gardens as well. So District 2 is beautiful, and we're proud of that. And when people drive through that district, they generally say, well, this is not the east side. You can say that, but it is District 2, and we're proud of those gems. And so those citywide projects and those regional projects, do know that I will support them. I will support those projects because I believe they add value to our community. But access is key. And I've had those conversations with folks like UTSA. I've had conversations with folks like the Botanical and Sunken Gardens. What are we doing to hear and meet the needs of the community? And I think, Mr. McCary, you said something at the last meeting that I will hold you to, and that is this committee having the opportunity to serve as an oversight committee, helping see those projects through, because we've heard it and we're not done listening, right? A lot of us ask for scope. So let's, if anything, volunteer to come to the meeting so you can hear the actual scope of the project, right? So see the project through. My last point is I'm proud to say some of the projects that weren't on the list for District 2 have made it. And so I say to you, the two most unused and most important words in the English language, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for hearing me out.
I don't want to follow that. Hi, I'm Rachel Brim, and I'm representing D1. Like many of you, this is my first time serving on a Parks Bond Committee. I was on the other side of these seats last bond cycle advocating, and I want to say, use your voice because it works. And those that did speak, thank you. We heard you, and we appreciate you taking your time to come out and talk to us. You helped educate us on things that we would not otherwise have access to. I also want to thank our two fearless leaders, no matter the day, the time, you were there for us. I think you helped make the process run as smoothly as it possibly could. I would like to see the process start earlier. And we had to put a bond package together to understand how much money was going to be allocated to parks. Why weren't citizens being engaged at that point in time and letting them speak at that point in time so we can build a more robust program based on the needs of our community? I also have to agree with Audrey. I think she was the first one to say it from D8 about the maintenance plans. Like, it's great to invest in all these gyms, but if we're not going to spend the money to maintain it or just keep kicking the can down the road, it kind of diminishes our work. And then I just really want to appreciate staff on all their quick turnaround. I've also asked some of the organizations here. I want to call out Albert with UTSA. Anytime I had a question, within a few hours, he had got me my answers. So I really appreciate everybody working really hard because it is a very fast process. We met in November, beginning of November. It's now middle December, and we're getting ready to vote. So that's a quick turnaround. I also want to give a shout out to the sign interpreter. You're working really hard and fast, and I see you. Thank you.
And I have to echo that because we gave commendments to the sign language interpreters at the Disability Access Advisory Committee yesterday, but the number of proper nouns used and finger spelling and 1 minute time limits have really enhanced the hand muscles of our interpreters in San Antonio. But that goes further to say, appreciate them, appreciate the staff, appreciate our leadership. And my focal point in participating is to amplify the voices of people with disabilities in our community and make sure that the considerations that help bring our tax dollars to actually bring access to every resident of San Antonio and celebrating the visions, even though we didn't have the scopes, but the visions that actually brought forward accessibility features into their plans and were part of their visions and not included in hindsight, which just means people with disabilities were not included in the scope, in the planning of something. So the zoo in Hemisphere, and we even had a small project in D1 that's looking at tactile mapping and being a pilot for modeling how to include people of all abilities in our park system. And so just coming to the table to champion those projects, and so pleased to see that I heard echoes of camaraderie around the table, and that was a good thing, an encouragement. So thank you all, and that's it.
I actually was about to say, I finally get to use this line. Last and least, I'm Irby Hightower from District 1. I, like everyone, I really want to commend the co-chairs and city staff for the great job that they've done, as well as all of you. And what a great committee this has been, although short and intense. And I hope we do have a chance to know each other much better. I have had to sit through a lot of public meetings, and I was really amazed by the number of people who showed up and how clearly they stated their messages, and how much it was really wonderful to see this kind of interaction by citizens, and that it was not like some public meetings can be. It was really, really great to see the way everybody presented their ideas and conducted themselves. And I was really impressed by what they wanted to do, and I think we should do every single thing that they ask us to do. There's nothing that I thought was dumb or stupid or a bad idea. It was all great things that we need to be doing. What I've seen from a perspective about parks in San Antonio and maintenance, which I think it's a real challenge to city staff. When things go well in city budgets, parks get funded. The moment there's a downturn in the economy, the first thing that gets cut is parks maintenance, because it's the one thing that seems like it's dispensable. And to try to see if there are creative ways for funding parks maintenance that are somewhat outside the normal city budget process. I don't know what all that includes. Sometimes that may be some idea of TERS funding. It certainly involves possibly what Hemisphere is trying to do, to see if there are ways in some cases of developing property around the parks, and that the income that property kicks off goes towards that park's programming and maintenance. We need to find ways of funding parks that are slightly insulated from the kind of ups and downs that managing a city this size requires you to cut budget and put money back in. Because I think what has happened too often is deferred maintenance has ended up being a capital program because it's been deferred so long, it now needs to be replaced. So that's suggestion one. My sort of second suggestion, which is that being on the other side of being involved with projects that we know we're hoping to get bond funding, the time to start organizing for the 2027 bond is somewhere around May 15th of 2022. And to start looking at the process, particularly for bringing parks projects to the city. I know it's incredibly complicated about whether you're going to go with how much money you've got first or what the vision is. But it seems like if we could get a process where we can have a vision for what parks need, while people have been incredibly understanding that there are budget limits, and that if you can at least give them a roadmap of how things might happen over 10, 15, 20 years to accomplish vision for what they want to do. I'm again very impressed at the number of people who seem sort of to understand that and being willing to think about, I'm not going to get everything this time, but if I've got a roadmap, it will be great. I moved to San Antonio in 1983, and it was a culture shock on lots of levels. I've told lots of people this. I moved from a farm in East Texas to New York City. That was less of a shock, that cultural shock, than moving from Philadelphia to San Antonio. And it took a little while for me to figure out exactly why that was and what I was seeing. And I assumed when I moved here that San Antonio sort of thought of itself as a city, and over time I decided that it kind of thought of itself as a confederacy of small towns, all sort of loosely gathered around and loosely kind of going in the same direction. But people really thought of their little town much more than they thought of the city in general. And I think that's changed a lot. And I think the projects that really, really propel that change are the sort of citywide projects, particularly the projects that create connectivity. So I think the River Project and the Greenways Project and some of our sort of major parks projects, particularly if those parks projects can be in all parts of the city, I think really make a huge difference. What I saw on the river was the moment it was finally connected, suddenly everybody was everywhere on the river. And people that I am quite certain had never seen a mission suddenly saw missions in San Antonio. What I told everybody, the project before that, which was Mission Trails, was we were not doing mission trails so the tourists could find the missions. They could, they always did. We were building mission trails so that San Antonians could find the missions. I think that these kinds of, I know the big projects are always easy to take aim at. You see that dollar value, that dollar amount, and it's really, really easy to go. Certainly we can shave some there. But I think, again, some of these projects are the ones that are making us think of ourselves together, because we get to see each other in ways that we normally don't get to see each other. And we get to meet each other, and we get to see each other's neighborhoods, and we get to go places. And anything that causes San Antonio to be a more connected community, I think is a plus for all of the community. So I really want to, I'm glad that we haven't cut more from the Greenway project, but as always, I hope we can find other ways of funding what we have cut from them. And I hope we can find other ways of funding things below our line, and that we can find a way to make sure in 2027 that the bond committee has a clear idea of how they're funding this phase of the city's vision of what needs to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Irby. David, did you want to say a word?
Yeah, just real quick. Hey, I just wanted, David McCary, I wanted to tell you how much I really appreciate you not only listening to our community, but being the voices of our community as well. I will tell you that this isn't easy, but y'all have shown true commitment. And that's one of the reasons why the minute y'all said, hey, what about the scope of work? What happens to that? I've served on bond committees for three times, and no one ever asked me what the scope of work was. Well, now be careful what you ask for, because not only do you deserve to help us shape that scope of work, but you can help us see it through. This is what it's all about. True public engagement, true definitions of what equity looks like, and not just buzzwords. So I'm looking forward to whatever I can do to help. And yes, you can get a survey after this. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Okay, so thanks everyone for sharing those wonderful thoughts. I teared up a couple of times with some of the things y'all were saying. This is, obviously as co-chairs, this has been a long and challenging process for us, especially over this last weekend, working around the clock the last couple of days, calling you guys, talking, going through your survey results and trying to kind of put it all together. So that's all we've done. I mean, this is not Jeanette and I. What you see on the screen in front of you has literally come from your surveys, as we've discussed. And so what we would like to do is we think of that as a point of departure, right, for tonight's action. Hopefully it's pretty close to the end point. Hopefully we've done our job and we're closer than we are far from it, but we're not by any means saying we got it all right, right? And so there's space tonight for us to do some more work on this if we choose. And so how we've decided to break this up for expediency's sake is into two separate motions rather than one great big motion where everything kind of happens. If you'll recall the survey that we sent out that you all worked so diligently on,
within your delegations, the first question asked you, what would you, how would you prioritize the dollars that are allocated to your district specifically? And are there things that you would do? And you were all incredibly disciplined in zeroing that out, almost. I mean, I think we had $1 million discrepancy or something like that, and a couple of issues that we worked through. So if you'll review the survey results that we provided back to you against the line items that we provided you, and just kind of confirm that we did get that right, we think the first motion would be to list off those items, ask for a motion to approve that slate of 21 items, pluses and minuses, and then ask for a second, and then open it up for discussion in case we need to do a course correction or we heard something wrong, or y'all have been meeting late last night and you just changed your mind, right? So, so David, let's go ahead and first let me just ask, just a quick show of hands, straw poll. Do y'all need 5 minutes to kind of talk with your committee members? 5 minutes? 5 work? Okay, let's do that. Let's take 5 minutes. And Jeanette and I and David are going to be up, and we'll be walking around the room. If you have questions, you can call us over.
I'll set a timer.
My stuff is we was talking about we don't have any movie theaters in this one. It's all like that's why we do our amusement park. Yeah, it's just our last one got canceled. The weather. Yeah. Let's do this. I know you're. Take care. You have a good one. Like I said, if you three motions, one yeah, potentially it could get my sounds like
I was all right. They all seem very happy. That's what you want. Amendments of an amendment of another amendment. Yeah, I was going to say there's a motion on the floor and we had an amendment, but you also had an amendment. Maybe a friendly amendment. Yeah, I don't think that we need to have an amendment on an amendment. And then, because apparently that happened yesterday a couple times. That's what Stephanie was texting me. She's like, hey, watch out for amendments to amendments to amendments. I'll go and double check with Ray's over there. I think he's itching to get to the podium. Yeah, okay. I'll tell him the same thing. So,
That is 5 minutes, just so everyone keeping track. That's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes. We're going to extend by 1 minute. I'm sorry to be annoying.
Is this hot? Okay, folks, let's get back to our seats. We've got final business to take care of, and I know we want to keep time as closely as we can. The time is now 7:30. Please return to your seats so we can continue with the business at hand. D6 is really gunning for that ETS.
I know, that's good. That's fine. Okay, can we have your attention, please? Can we get everybody in the room to kind of take your seats? Thank you. Okay, I think we are as ready as we're going to be to proceed with this exercise. We're going to ask David McCary to read off a list of the proposed changes to district-specific allocations. And David, I believe we have 28 of those.
Yes, that is correct.
We have 28 of those. We're going to read those off, and you can follow along in your master spreadsheet. And ensure that he's got it right. And at the end of that, we'll ask for a motion to approve this list of items from one of you and a second, and then we'll go into discussion.
Okay, so delegates, to help you follow this, we have a spreadsheet in front of you so that you'll be able to see it. Ryan Evans will be the one entering it as I give out the numbers, and it'll do its own calculations. So we'll do the change. Now, this is about what is net neutral for your district. So let's get started. District 1. District 1 Multi-Generational Center. We have a reduction, committee reduction of $6 million. District 1 Parks. We have an increase, committee increase of $3.1 million. Almost Basin Park, we have an increase of $300,000. District 1 San Pedro Springs Park, we have an increase of $500,000. Are y'all watching the calculations move, right? So. Now, these next 5 will have to be added, so I will have to give Ryan time to enter. We have Beacon Hills, $500,000. We have Delview, $500,000. We have Maverick Park, $600,000. We have Florida Street Park, $250,000. And we have Shara Hills, $250,000. Moving along to District 2. District 2 did not have any new additions that was net neutral. They are adding that will be a part of the second motion, but to be transparent, they will be adding Greater Faith Multi-Generational Center and Wheatley Sports Complex. So we'll talk about that in district for the second motion. It is not net neutral, so they will be a part of the second motion. Everybody on the same page? Okay. District 3, no changes. District 4, no changes. District 5, the District 5 parks, $375,000 added. Next is Rosedale Park, $375,000 reduced. Also, which will also be a part of the second motion is Casiano Park. They have recommended $750,000, which there are other recommendations that go along with that park. So just keeping you up to speed. Moving along to District 6, we have Cellular Park adding $250,000. Is that Cuellar?
Cuellar, yes, sir.
Cuellar, oh, Cuellar, thank y'all. Y'all help me with that. That's why I love you guys. Y'all won't let anybody get away with nothing. That's good. Okay, new park, the regional park for District 6, Phase 1, there's a reduction of $250,000. New park at Oral Drive and Suzette Avenue, a reduction of $200,000. Timber Ridge Park, a reduction of $250,000. Tom Slick Park, an increase of $250,000. Next is a new one. Ryan, this is a new addition. It's called North San Antonio Hills Park, an increase of $200,000 or an introduction of $200,000. Next is District 7. District 7 also has one that falls under the second motion. It's an increase to the Woodlawn Lake Park of $520,000. Again, it's not net neutral, so it has to go into the second motion. District 8, no changes. District 9, Klassen-Steuben Park. There is a reduction by the organization to fund other projects of $1 million. That is for other items like BMX facilities, mountain biking, pickleball, Mitchell Lake, you name it. They were very conscious about helping other districts. Okay, District 10. McAllister Park, we have an increase of $250,000. Beidle Creek Linear Trails Park Extension, we show a decrease of $6 million. Comanche Lookout Park, we show an increase of $450,000. Oh, Friesenhain Park, is that how? Friesenhain. Freezer. I'm not leaving here till I get it right. What is it? Friesenhain. Friesenhain. Oh, thank you. Okay. Park, an increase of $300,000. Lady Bird Johnson Park, an increase of $250,000. Ryan, these next ones are additions. We have 5 new additions. The first one, Ryan, is McAllister Park, MTB.
Mountain biking.
Mountain biking, thank you. That's $500,000 for mountain biking. The next one is Melby Dog Park, Bellmead Dog Park, for $300,000. So we have, next one is El Dorado and Beidle Creek. There's the design and phase 1 trail connection, $202.5 million increase. Next one is the Feather Ridge Park, $250,000. Next one is D10 Greenway Trails Lighting Pilot Project, $1.2 million. Chairs, that completes the first motion entries.
Thank you, David. The chairs will entertain a motion to approve this list of projects.
The million from Clausen, we'll need to go on motion 2 because it's not net neutral.
Well, we can have a positive, can't we?
Well, it should be net neutral. Which one?
It's the Clausen Stubing. That one was District 9 didn't have any.
Oh, so Classing's, oh, yeah.
Steuben should be in the second motion.
I probably have to ask the attorney to tell us if there's. Right, that was just.
As long as we're in the green, we should be fine, right, John?
That's what I want.
Steve.
No, I think the idea that we had talked about was that the first motion would only be the net neutral, so that at the end, when we vote, each district will be at the same point that they started out with. So it's just shifting money around.
Okay, but
within the
that's not the intent of this. Some districts are giving up funds, right? So to benefit citywide projects or other, and
You can
so.
always add it. If y'all like, we can add it to the second motion.
I think that
'cause
makes the most sense.
and we can end at a neutral slate for your first motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second. We're gonna. Can you raise your hand?
Richard
Sue?
Delgado seconded the motion.
Richard Delgado, second. Okay, let's have discussion. Herbie?
The issue is only 3 mics can be on at a time, so someone needs to turn their mic off. Yeah. That's
Okay, thank you. No problem. We have one change because we had a clarification from the Parks Department. And that is that we would like to move the $250,000 that we have under Sheer Hills into the Almost Basin Park allocation to increase it by another $250,000 because Sheer Hills is actually, Almost Basin Park is actually the park name that we should have used.
Okay. Herbie, would you like to make an amending motion?
Yes, I'd like to make an amending motion to move $250,000 from Sheer Hills Park to Almost Basin Park.
Can I have a second? What's that? Yeah. Okay. All in favor? Okay. Next discussion
for clarity, point. Sorry to interrupt. There are green cards in front of you for yes, red for no, and yellow for abstaining. So if you'd please show them just so there's a visual indication for folks who, when you vote. That's the first motion.
That was for the first motion.
Perfect.
We're back to the.
With the amendment.
Oh, with amendment.
What?
Oh, okay, great. Well, we're done. Wait, I think we had another point of discussion before we were ready to vote. Can we?
Yes, we don't want the Leon Greenway connection from Port San Antonio to Camargo to Pearsall Park left out. We want it put back in. It's under number 63 where it's taken out.
We're going to deal with that in motion number 2.
In motion number 2?
Because it's greenways and citywide. So
Okay.
let's take that up in the next.
All right. I just want to make sure we get it in there.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so let's go ahead and let that last vote stand. If nobody has any objections, raise a red card if you have an objection. Tala?
You had mentioned something about Cassiano Park. Are there 2 allocations here in our papers?
We're going to sort that out in the next motion.
So what is included in the first motion regarding Cassiano Park? Nothing.
The reason it was in the first motion is the district itself wanted to fund something, so they went neutral for 750. So it is a done deal for them.
And that may have been a mistake on our part. I believe we mistranslated the district request, David. So we'll just get that sorted out, right?
We had asked for 5 million, so.
Right.
Yeah.
We'll get that sorted out in the next motion.
Excuse me, before we do the final vote, Ryan, if you'd show the full spreadsheet, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page about what's occurring. Sorry, it doesn't have to be totally zoomed out, but if you could just scroll through. So crossing Stubing should not be a part of this motion, so that should come out for clarity's sake. We agree to that? Yep. That's going to be a part of the second motion. Okay, good. So if you could start at the top, I just want you to D1 quickly. We're good here. Does that look correct? Okay. And then let's go to the next set of changes. Ryan, I apologize. Correct, not yet.
Yes, it does. Yes.
Okay. So there we go. Okay. Thank you for that. D5, this looks correct. Yep. Okay. 6. We're good. Okay. keep moving there, Ryan. Thank you. 9 and 10, this looks correct. If you'd show us the projects at the very bottom as well, that'd be helpful. Those are the new additional ones for 1, 6, and 10. Okay, I just wanted us to all see that. If you go all the way to the bottom
So
right.
John, just a clarification. I think everybody was aware we were going to do those things. We're just confirming that in the spreadsheet so the vote stands.
I think you need to call the question for the main motion.
Yeah.
The first vote was just.
I don't know that you voted on the final spreadsheet. Maybe I missed that.
Point of order.
Okay.
Point of order. Yeah.
Yes.
I apologize, but I thought I was just voting on the amendment.
You were.
Okay. And so that was my vote. My vote was the amendment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
you need-
I'm going to approve that too, but I was voting on the amendment.
Yeah, we need there's a motion on the floor for this and a second, so I believe you're going to do that vote next.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead and back up and let's vote on the first motion, which is to
I
approve this
apologize.
slate of
One
projects.
final piece of clarification in D1 on the multi-gen center. That is just West End, correct? I think we should notate that. The money is for the West End multi-gen center.
We had actually asked for it to be, to look at a sort of a master plan and phasing for 2 centers to be part of that. We're not spending it just on for West End and for.
I think with the amount of money left, Razi wants to make sure you understand that it's
The remaining funding is only for West End.
Well, at least what we were hoping for was to get some money because we know that Kenwood would not be a new center, but they have some small items that could be changed that would really help them function.
That
as they
probably
are now.
can be below the line, but this is for West End.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Ryan, if you just notate for West End, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Is
Okay, so
Is District 1 okay with that?
District 1?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we are back to voting on the original motion with the amendments. And we're going to ask you, if you're in favor, now to hold up your green card.
Yeah, everyone should vote, co-chairs, if you're abstaining, if you'd hold the yellow up as well.
I need another one.
I got the that's fine. The motion passes.
Okay. Congratulations. We've gotten half of our proposed changes out of the way. Okay. Moving on to motion number 2. I suspect this one may take us a moment longer to work through. So David, why don't you go ahead and let's go through the same drill we did last time. Remember, we're going to list off the proposed changes, which are, again, they're just a point of departure, a place to start the conversation. We'll ask for a motion in a second, and then we'll go into discussion.
Thank you, Chair. So we're going to go back and start with the districts that we indicated would be a part of the second motion. The first is the Greater Faith Multi-Generational Center, $500,000. The next is the Wheatley Sports Complex, $1 million. The next one, this is a new one, Ryan, because I'm having to bring them together. Cassiano Park, I have the $3,750,000. Okay. Let's see. The next one is Woodlawn Lake Park, adding $520,000. The next one is Classen Steuben Park, a reduction of $1 million. Yes, my apologies. Yeah, that's an addition, 520. Okay. UTSA, a reduction of 1.5 million.
Ryan, 1.5, not 1, sorry.
Because you have a mixture from citywide to trails to districts, we are now still a part of this. You have your Leon Greenway connection, design only, a reduction of 1,886,500. 1,886,500. We'll wait on you, Ryan. We appreciate it. Okay. Next is a
Ms. McCray, hold on one second. Judy, did you have a question?
I was just asking if you could repeat what he just said. I wasn't sure it was the same, because Leon Creek's listed a couple different ways a couple times. I wanted to make sure he had the right thing listed.
So this is identified as it's a part of the Linear Greenway Trail. It's the Leon Creek, it's the Leon Greenway connection, Port SA at Camargo to Pearsall Park, design only.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. The next reduction is Hay Street Bridge connection, $1 million reduction.
And is there a reason for that?
District 2 request.
Okay, thank you.
There was a request from District 2.
Next is Leon Creek Greenway pedestrian side path pilot project, a reduction of $2,006,645. That's 2,006,645. That was 50% off, 50% reduce, 50% off, 50% reduce. The next one is Brook Green Line connection to our Salado Creek Greenway design only. That reduction is $1,219,900. That's 1219900. The next one is Flyway, Salado to Almost Basin, design only. Reduction, $2,442,000. That's 244,200. That is within the trails. The next reduction is Sunken Garden Theater, $5 million. The next, Ryan, are additions. These are 8 total additions, so we'll work with you on it. First one is Mitchell Lake, $4 million. That's Audubon Conservancy. We already showed Casiano Park, right? The 3.750. Okay.
It's there.
Great. Next one is the BMX facilities and mountain biking citywide. $3,250,000. That's a 3250000. Okay. The next one is pickleball citywide, 1.5 million addition. The next one is Pearsall Park, $400,000. The next one is Public Theater, San Pedro Spring Park, $500,000 added. The next one, Ryan, is 5 Diamond Stinson, $500,000 added. The next one is West Side Creek Enhancements, $1,505,045. We have 1505045.
David, I think we got something wrong in the spreadsheet. I think the initial recommendation was to cut the pedestrian side path entirely, the pilot project. And that would get us. Oh, public art. Yep, public art.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Okay, tell me again, what did I miss?
You're good.
You're good, David.
Okay. No, that was a test. Okay, I got you. You just tested me. Okay. The next reduction is public art, 0.5%, $1,370,000, 1.370. Delegates, that is your that's your second motion information.
Marco, did you have something before we call for a motion and get a motion on the floor for discussion?
I'd rather discuss it now. The intention of District 9, we talked about equity here for like 4 weeks, was to give $1 million from one of the parks because we know we have another bond coming in 5 years. So the intention of that was really to create a better park in Mitchell Lake. So that's what we gave. And they need $5 million, is my understanding in talking to the SOS representative to keep.
It sounds like we're getting into the substance of,
Right.
of this. So why don't we go ahead and make a motion and get it on the floor, and then we can go around and discuss. Art.
I will make a motion that we approve the additions and subtractions that we have discussed.
Can I get a second?
I will second it, but there's an amendment. So there's it's greater love.
Please use your mic. Sorry.
I don't think I can when there's another mic on.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's greater love, not greater faith. I just don't want the money to go to the wrong institution. So let's make sure that that's there. And with that said, Arthur, I will give you that second.
I have a question before the motion to first or second here. I just want to get some clarification. There's two that are citywide. One is the BMX facility and the other is the pickleball complex. Do we know where within the city, or is it all over, or just in one area?
No, we heard from a number of different organizations, if you'll recall, during public testimony that identified need all over the city geographically, multiple parks, multiple facilities. And I think the idea here is, back to this idea that we're going to continue to work through this process, that we engage those communities with city staff to help determine where best to put those facilities, because I certainly don't have the expertise. That was the idea behind it. And so we're suggesting it as a citywide project.
So we're going to look at where to put these multiple points of.
It's a budget. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Elena.
Just a clarification for everyone. We had added the pickleball citywide, and what our intent was when we added it was Judy had an amazing idea, is that we already have tennis courts. I just started playing pickleball this summer. Reline existing tennis courts with the different colors that would fit pickleball distances. So you could still get double accessibility. And then you could start, the parks can start monitoring, oh, they're really heavy on pickleball right here. And that might be something to note for future. So it was trying to be cost effective in pickleball. The one firm, the court that came here, yes, but like we could expand the sport by just relining. So that was the intent when we wrote that in. So I just wanted to share what it meant.
Thank you, Elena. Richard, did you have a question?
I do. So question, why do we take half of Sunken Garden? And just looking at the responses from my colleagues around the dais, UTSA, we only dipped into that a little bit. So can you get some?
I think what we need to do is get a motion on the floor. I think there are two projects in particular that are going to warrant discussion by this committee. One of those is UTSA and the other one is Sunken Gardens.
But there's already a motion on the floor.
Yeah, there's a motion.
And it's been seconded.
In a second, right. So
we're under discussion.
So we're moving on to discussion. We're done with the questions about it. Okay, good. Go ahead, Richard.
Okay, so that was my question. So why did we take half from Sunken Garden when we look at the responses from my colleagues around the dais? Why didn't we take half from UTSA as well?
How we did it or how we got there, I think is irrelevant at this point. I think what's important is what you feel we should be doing at this point as a committee. And I think if you feel that we should be doing something other than what's proposed, I would encourage you to make a motion.
It is relevant, and that's all. I don't. So there's a reason why. Okay, so I know the reason. So I was hoping you would tell me the reason, but I know the reason. So we took half from Sunken Garden because we know that they have additional funding streams. To my knowledge, right? So I will make a motion that we remove in that same lens half from UTSA to move otherwise, because they have the funding to raise that capital to fund that project. And this is, to me, shouldn't even be here in parks because it's a facility and it's not open for everyone. There's control and access and parking and all of that. So again, my motion is, I have love for UTSA. They again, just announced a $20 million gift. So my motion is to remove half of their funding, and then we can figure out where that funding goes.
Richard, so for clarity, half of the 10 or half of the 8.5?
Let's just go half of the 10. So that
$5
brings them
million
down.
reduction.
Yes.
Okay. We have a motion to amend. Do we have a second? We have a second? Okay, let's open it up for discussion now. This is only on the amendment to reduce UTSA's funding down to 5 million. Akeem.
So so Jim, on a point of order real quickly, while the question is about UTSA, my question goes back to his original question around Sunken Gardens. I think I saw some document that said something about Brackenridge Conservatory participating as a leverage partner. Is that true? Can we validate that real quickly?
That's going to be a question for city staff.
Okay. Because my thought is to answer Richard's question that there may be funding already allotted or identified for that 5 million, and that's why the funding was cut. But I don't want to give you that as an answer if that's not the answer. So Homer, is that?
It is a proposed leverage funding project here in the proposed bond. It's what you've been talking about. The county has indicated as a potential partner. Additionally, the Conservancy would also fundraise for a portion of the overall project cost.
So did we get that information after the project had been submitted? Because that wasn't the original. His question is, why did we make the reduction? And I think we need to answer that clearly. Why was the reduction made, of the 5 million?
That's a question for the co-chairs and the members around the table. The original ask from Sunken Gardens to the city, I think the total project Mr. Turner here is, from the Conservancy is here, was for $62 million total project. They had an original request to the city for $25 million, the staff, and a $25 million request to the county. The city staff initially recommended to the council $20 million. After we got council feedback, we reduced it to 10, but in parallel, we are also looking to retool the Midtown tours into a cultural corridor tours, and working with the Whitty, the zoo, the Conservancy, and others along that tours area to dedicate tours towards those city facilities. That plan is running in parallel with this process. So we reduced it down to $10 million from a staff perspective. It's probably going to be a variety of sources. At a minimum, whatever happens with the bond, the TERS, whatever happens with the county, and then the Conservancy was committed to raising private dollars.
And to answer your question, it's a point of departure that came from multiple surveys and multiple conversations. Elena.
If I could encourage folks who aren't speaking to turn your mics off, that would be helpful. It's hard to get chimed in when you're all on.
It's hard to turn it off.
Oh, here as well.
Thank you. Before we started all this conversation, I had noted that I had a red flag on a project. It is Sunken Gardens. And so let me just share where my red flag is. So now it's going to be on noted. It has to do, the neighborhood association came to us and said, we have problems with this project. And so I take very seriously when a neighborhood doesn't agree with a project that's coming into their zone.
Yeah.
So just
I'm sorry. We are talking about UTSA right now.
No, Sunken Garden.
No, the motion that's on, there's two motions on the
Right.
floor, right? The one that we're working on that we should be focused on, I'm sorry for interrupting, I
Okay.
apologize, is UTSA. So we need to stay focused on
Okay, well then-
UTSA. I
okay.
apologize for interrupting.
Well,
you.
then can I say something
we're
about
trying to
UTSA?
follow a thread
Absolutely,
of
absolutely.
logic and,
Yes.
and be transparent about the process and get questions answered.
So just
Elena, would you
hold
please
me on
finish?
Sunken Garden, but now I can say UTSA.
You go ahead and finish, and then
Okay.
we'll kind of try to pull it back to UTSA.
Because I do want to state on UTSA.
Yeah, go
too.
ahead,
Okay,
sure.
so which one you want me to do first? UTSA? Okay.
UTSA.
My two hats. And thank you, because this is the only time, this is where we miss the conversation. So I'll try to be very brief, but no, it comes with total. I've done a lot of work on UTSA. I came in totally against this project. Albert Garizales, I know him from 15 years when he was the city staffer, and I told him when he came, introduced, I said, I have problems with and it's accessibility. I've had like 6 conversations with not only Albert, but with Dr. Lisa Campos. So here's the bottom line. Here's the bullet points. In all the presentations that we have been offered to us, I sat back and heard, which are the ones that have to do with women's sports. I only saw females on bicycles and females playing pickleball. This is the only third one that has women involved in the sport. And for me, we talk about equity. For me, it's also female gender equity. I didn't hear anyone else. Those are the only 3. I spoke the second presentation. There was 2 ladies that came for UTSA, and they were talking about the women's sports. And I ran after Albert and I said, okay, now I'm open. Now it's about women's sports. Talk to me more. I had 2 conversations with Dr. Lisa Campos, and she's here in the room. And she told me about her great dream. This is not a building. It is, but it's the potential to outside the building. She wants to actively, intentionally reach out to our disadvantaged, to our low income, the young women, the young females that are using sports, and say, let's bring them into our campus free of charge. So they and their families can see a campus concept and maybe not be so intimidated by universities, because they can be intimidating. And so for me, it's like, it's the connection to the communities and to use their facilities and bring it into an educational platform. I mean, that variable. And for me, it was like, this is talking about sisters and daughters and grandchildren and nieces. And for me, that's personal. And for me, that, and talking to her, and I've talked to her and I said, I am going to hold, if this thing passes, I am going to hold you to that promise that you're going to do that outreach. And she stares me in the face and she says, yes. And I said, because that's the only way this is possible for me. I don't want to pay for a building, but I do want to pay for potential and vision and promise for females. And so I'm just sharing with you where I've come from. And so again, I looked at her outside and I said, I'm going to hold you to it. And she says, absolutely. So I just wanted to share because I had that reflection with my notes, my questions, but it never got to you. So that's why my no changed to yes. So I just wanted to share and have the moment to say that to you.
Thanks, Elena. Can we give somebody else a chance?
Sure.
Okay, great. Marco.
I fully agree with Elena. I think we need to support UTSA for many, many reasons. Many of you in this room don't realize how much they do to bring a lot of the NCAA events and how much they do to support a lot of programs in the community, like I Play Sports with San Antonio Sports, which really helps a lot of the fifth graders in the community that don't have a chance to go or join organized sports clubs. If you just took the time to actually spend 1 week with the UTSA folks and really see what they do in the community, you'll probably change your mind right away. I will not support any cuts to UTSA, and I'm fully in the side of Elena that this is a chance to really protect women's sports in San Antonio and continue to grow them.
Thank you. Audrey, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I also agree with Elena and Marco wholeheartedly. I think I take a bigger perspective about what UTSA brings to the table. When Elena talked about potential, I want you to think bigger. And when we, as a city, want to attract not only employers, but we also want to attract, research. If we have an expectation that UTSA is going to be a top tier university, that's what our dream is. We've talked about it. You've heard about it. I had a portion of, dreaming about that. I have alumnus from UTSA in my family. I think it's really important that we keep in mind that by funding and going into partnerships more than anything else, this is really a partnership with UTSA. And whether it's a sports facility, and I think that mentorship that those athletes bring to the table to our younger people, but also these are top tier type students that come to the university. And so we're going to strive to expand that capability of UTSA by bringing these top tier kids to the university. That's scholarship. That's great academic. The students, while they can play an amazing, game of basketball or an amazing game of volleyball, or young ladies and the different sports that you see, these are all scholars. All of them are. So I think I too don't agree with any cuts to UTSA. I think they bring so much more to the table. And I think we need to think bigger picture on this rather than just saying, oh, it's about access. Keep in mind, we've just been through a pandemic. So the agreement hasn't even been made yet about access.
Okay, thank you, Audrey. Graciela, Brooke.
Yeah, I also, originally I was very angry that UTSA came again to this bond committee for another $10 million, just because 5 years ago it was another $10 million. And in those 5 years, they built it and our communities didn't go, right? And their own numbers that we saw in the first meeting showed, especially District 5 had the least number of staff or faculty students and alumni. And then you look at the inner city and those numbers are still the same. So, so I wonder, after 50 years, suddenly this is going to change. I agree, and I'm happy that it is focused on women and girls, but so that allows me to say, okay, maybe I can support it, but I would still consider a reduction just because, as it's been mentioned, they just got another 20 million. They're spending 350 million for their cybersecurity downtown. They seem to have money, and I understand that these monies, the monies they raise from the state can't go to sports facilities, but students from UTSA are upset that they keep on getting charged a lot of athletic fees. So where are those monies going to? So is it possible to fund them, but still with a reduction from what they're asking for? That would be my recommendation.
Okay, we're really getting long on this one. Could I ask folks to be brief in their comments from here on out? Go ahead.
So let me give a point of reference, right? So I spent the last 15 years on a campus, on an education campus. So I know what funding is like and how hard it is. However, what benefits UTSA is they can raise the money. We have seen it here briefly. As a dad of a female athlete, this is personal to me as well. However, I think doing this way, where they have come back-to-back bonds at the same amount, I'm not saying remove it. I'm saying let's give them a little bit more skin in the game to hold them to what they're saying. Because from what I've heard from other people on the dais is they didn't hold up to their agreement the first time. So this now gives us an opportunity to take a little bit and then give to other projects that don't have that funding revenue. That's my thing right now, is if we take 5 million from them, then we can give to other projects that don't have funding, that funding arm.
Great, thank you. We're really going to need to move on. If there are no other pressing comments on this, can we go ahead and call a vote?
Oh, I was just going to call the question. No, I was just going to call the question.
Okay, let's do that. So we're going to vote on the amendment now. All in favor?
What's the amendment?
I can
Repeat
restate
the motion. The
Yeah,
motion
yeah.
is to reduce the funding for the UTSA project from 8.5 million to 5 million. Green cards for yes, red cards for no.
Yeah. Chairs, will you please vote as well?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I can't see from here, so I'm going to go down. So District 1, I see 3 greens, is that correct? Sorry, 2 greens, 1 yellow. From District 1?
District
I
1.
can't look at the right way, sorry, I apologize. Okay, District 2, 2 greens, 1 red. District 3, 3 greens. District 4, 2 red, 1 green. District 5, 3 green. District 6, 3 green. District 7, 3 red. District 8, 3 red. District 9, 2 red, 1 green. District 10, 3 green. And then 2 yellow at the co-chair level? Okay. I count 18 green, 11 red, and 3 yellow, so the motion passes.
Okay, continuing on to discussion on the underlying motion. Do we have, what's the next subject?
Well, since it seems like we just made some room for some money. Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, I would like to move let me take a step back. Have we approved the first motion that was on, okay, that's what I thought. I was like, got the amendment.
No, we got to work through all the amendments.
Got
today.
it, got it,
Yep.
got it, got it. So I'm going to amend, I'm going to make another amendment. I hate to make your life horrible, sorry. So I would love to see an increase of $5 million back to the Sunken Gardens Theater. 5 million. The 5 million that was taken off the table, I would like to see the $5 million brought back to the table for Sunken Gardens Theater. While the conversation had been displayed that we've heard from the River Road community, do understand that I've heard from several other constituents in District 2 specifically who live less than a mile right there in that neighborhood, right there in that community. Folks who frequent and utilize that facility who live less than a mile in that community. They want
Hakeem,
to
before
see,
we get into
they
discussion,
want to see the project.
before we get into discussion, we're going to need a second, but I also want to just clarify. At the moment, there's $5 million removed, but we've only found another $3.5 million with the successful motion previously.
Yeah, no, I don't think that that's the only money that we found though. Although that's the only successful or the last amendment, there's other money available. Am I correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, so I'm not just talking about an even swap here. I'm talking about
Okay.
whatever else.
I
is
just wanted to
left
make sure
over.
you're aware
Yes,
of that.
Yeah,
yes, sir, I am.
if I could offer before we get to the second, Hakeem, for your motion to be successful, you need to offer the cut to get to the 5. That's the point. So what is it that would also be cut to get to the 5 that's available? There's not 5 available from
Well,
what has
what
just
cuts did we make besides UTSA within the last 30 minutes?
You haven't approved
None.
any cuts. Everything you've done is
All
neutral,
net, all net
neutral,
neutral?
except for what you just did with UTSA.
Okay, so what about the Creek Linear project that we talked about, that Brookline connection or Green Line connection? What about all of that money? Because I was counting that. What was that?
There is a pedestrian side path
Okay,
pilot project at the moment that we've talked about that's on the floor, and the motion to reduce that by half.
Okay.
That's potentially.
Got it.
a
Got it.
source.
All right. Thank you for catching me up. Thank you, John. So with that said, then my motion, I'll amend my motion, and my motion will be just for 2 million. I won't ask for much. I heard some no's on the other end. So I'll just ask for 2 million. I won't ask for the whole 5. That way we still have 1.5 left over from the 3.5. All right. That's my motion, Mr. Chair. Hopefully we can get a second.
Do we have a second? Second. Okay. Discussion. Elena? And can we please be brief?
Okay, so it's the neighborhood that came, and Akeem, you know more about the other neighborhoods, but they have written November 3rd, November 14th to Councilman Bravo about their concerns. When I wrote my question out, my response was the chart that said, we don't have anything that fulfills 7,000 seats. There's the issue with the noise ordinance and an issue with the parking. But what was left out, that the San Antonio Current in August said the Tobin Entertainment is bringing back the former Verizon amphitheater in spring of 2022, which is a 7,000 seat. So there's another option coming. It's not that we don't have one, there's one coming already that would be a direct competitor. So I'm just sharing, do we have to put this much money there? And just maybe if they could rescale it. I do want Sunken Garden to have money, but that was my problem. So there it is.
Okay. Let's move. Chuck?
My comment is, would you want that in your neighborhood? If you wouldn't want it in your neighborhood, we shouldn't put it on other people.
Right, and I had asked for more information about it because, again, the scale of it was, in my opinion, overwhelming, and so I'm not supporting that.
Call for a vote, please.
Yeah, I have a quick
Oscar, did
comment
you
here,
have a
guys.
comment?
What we're doing as a group here, we're taking away some money like we did for UTSA, and then we're trying to add it right back to something else. We need to go through the list of all the takeaways first, so we know how much total money we have, then decide which projects get added. Rather than the way we're doing it, we're kind of just playing within two
Okay.
things. So
Thank you.
suggestion.
We have a motion on the floor. Any other comments?
Just call for a vote, please.
Okay. And this is would you repeat your motion, Akeem, briefly? Sorry.
Yes, I would like to see $2 million be invested back into the Sunken Gardens Theater after that reduction of the 5 million, sorry.
For a total of 7, correct?
Correct.
Okay, committee, please vote.
Yeah, we're going to do it all together. If you'd please raise them. If it's clear from the initial raise, we're not going to do a roll call vote, so the motion fails.
Okay, motion fails. Okay, next issue. Does anyone have a point of discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to put $2 additional million on the Mitchell Lake proposal and take some of that money from the BMX.
How much from BMX?
Well, the 2 million, because it's going to take at least $5.5 or $6 million for Mitchell Lake to keep the grounds open and not to charge admission. Is what I've heard from a SALS representative today.
There's 3.5 available.
There's money on the table.
So you could get all 2 million.
Clarification, Marco, thank you. We're in the green 3.5. So are you or is your motion 2 million from that 3.5 to go to Mitchell Lake? Is that your motion? Yes. I second.
Discussion?
Let's do it.
Hold on. Richard.
Just clarification, because I know he said to add, but he also mentioned to remove from BMX. So did he remove that from his?
No, the motion is to remove, or is to utilize $2 million of our current surplus as shown at the top of the screen to fund the Mitchell Lake project to an additional $2 million.
Richard, just to clear, yeah, that's why I was asking his clarification, because we're in the green. Yeah.
Okay, is everyone clear? Okay, let's vote.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay.
I'd like to make an amendment or a motion. There's an additional 1.5 million left. I went through the numbers a little bit earlier. Districts 2, 7, and 8 are all below $7 million. So I'd like to see the rest of the remaining funds distributed between those 3 districts to bring them to $7 million each.
Yeah, so if you specify dollar amounts and what districts specifically?
So districts 2, districts 7, and 8, splitting that 1.5 million, 500,000 per district. For districts 2, 7, and 8 to bring them above 7 million, hopefully.
Okay, we have a motion. Sorry, go ahead, John.
Sorry, I just need clarity here. I don't mean to press you. So District 2 parks?
District 2 parks, District 7 parks, and District 8 parks.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? We have a motion and a second on the floor. Do we have discussion?
Yes.
Just, a line item for District 8 parks.
Yeah, I was concerned that we hadn't gone through other projects that might also warrant some support. So rather than just, because I also heard from community members that they didn't necessarily need more money.
Right.
So I'd be concerned just to give it over that.
I wonder if we might pause here for just a moment, because we can do this all night. Right. Maybe let's just have a quick round robin. Like, raise your hand if you're going to make a motion to ask for more money or to ask that a project be funded. Let's just line them up. Let's make a list and let's do this in an orderly fashion. And then let's talk very briefly about where we might make cuts. Because this is going to take forever. So please raise your hand if you intend to make a motion tonight to fund a project that is not currently recommended for funding or to increase funding. Okay? Jeanette, you got pen?
Go ahead, Amy.
No, sorry, there's a motion and a second on the floor, just for clarity. So I think you need to.
Okay, and then we can go back to that discussion after we clear this.
Yes, please, because there are 2 motions on the floor.
Okay. So discussion. The motion was to, can you repeat it, please?
The motion is to take the remaining 1.5 million that was decreased from UTSA to allocate $500,000 to districts 2, 7, and 8, which are the lowest districts that are being funded, and bring them to hopefully an average of $7 million per district. So $500,000 to districts 2, 7, and 8.
Okay.
Can I speak to that?
Yes, please.
Okay, so, and that may be what looks like on paper today, like what would be even today. But I can tell you in past bonds and past projects, D4 specifically has been left out. So granted, yeah, we may have a little bit more money, but it's to make up of past projects that we never got. So right now, you guys knocked off that Leon Greenway connection. That was the one I was going to bring up later. But so I would prefer if we didn't do that and we put D4's money back, because we've already been shorted previous bonds. So we're almost playing catch up in our area.
Mr. Chair, I think every district can say the same. District 2 can definitely. Can we call for the question? We're ready for vote.
Okay.
Yes.
I wonder if you might consider tabling your motion while we discuss the.
No, I would like to call for the vote, please.
Okay, fine.
He called the.
Let's vote.
Let's vote. Please all together raise your cards. All right, here we go. I'm going to start with District 1 from the right side here. 3 noes. 3 yeses at District 2. 3 yeses District 3. 3 noes District 4. 3 noes District 5. 3 noes District 6. 2 red, 1 green. Do I have that right? Okay. 2 red, 1 green. District 8, 3 green. District 9, 2 red, 1 green. District 10, 2 red, 1 green. And co-chairs, 2 yellow. The motion fails. 12 green, 18 red, 2 yellow.
Thank you, John.
Make a motion.
So we're back to the original motion. So I think we need to take a moment and discuss. Let's just kind of go around the table and let's make a quick list and do this kind of in a neighborly manner that we started this meeting off with. So Amy, why don't you start off?
So I know with Pearsall Park specifically, it's closed off on both sides. So adding that extension, we talked about equity and accessibility. That's really important for this area.
I think we just wanted just a quick list.
Oh, sorry.
At this point,
Yeah,
of
okay,
what,
so sorry, the
what
part that
motions
I-
you intend to make. Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. Is just adding back on that Leon Greenway connection at Port SA. And it was for $1,886.
For design only. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Oscar, did you have something?
Yeah, I think the easiest vote to me, a motion would be that this extra funding that we're talking about, that 1.5 or thereabouts, that we just disperse it out to each of the districts an equal amount, okay? We're not trying to be greedy, but you have it there and you can use it wherever you need to within your district, rather than try to fight and bicker among ourselves. I think we're gonna spend all night. That's
Great, thank you, Oscar. Does anybody else have any more projects that they intend to make a motion to add or subtract funding from?
Well,
Judy?
I just wanted to bring up the Wi-Fi piece. I just didn't know if we got any clarity on whether that could be ARPA funding or if we
We
needed to try to
did.
bring it above the line.
Eric, can you talk a little bit about Wi-Fi or Homer?
Part of the recommended projects will not include spending bond money on Wi-Fi. So quick point of last meeting, and we talked about Wi-Fi in parks. So we have 28 facilities, 24 have Wi-Fi, or in the process of completing those projects, which would leave 4. So back to this specific question in the bondo, that is not something that we would be doing through the bond.
Okay, thank you.
And Judy, we're actually going to put it in our communication to council that we're asking that ARPA funds be prioritized for that.
Got it. And my only other amendment potentially was going to be if there's other projects that truly need to be brought up for funding, that we could further reduce the Leon pilot project for sidewalk.
Okay. That's another 2.2, something like that. Okay. Any others? Go ahead.
Yes, I'm looking at the new line item for BMX facilities and mountain biking citywide. That is a new item. We've heard proposals from the public. Oh, sorry. Yes, so that is a new line item, and we have heard some proposals from the community anchoring some of these, that type of a facility at Pearsall. Do we have any idea about where we might put this? It's awful lot of money without any sort of information about where it could go and who it might benefit. Similar question to pickleball citywide. Are we dispersing resources?
I don't really have answers to those questions. I think, are you suggesting that you might make some changes to those based on the answers to that question?
Yes, I think that I would be amenable to reducing the funding to the BMX facility. We have some money for BMX facility at McAllister Park, I believe that was added in. I don't know that we need to fund
Okay.
that
So,
3.25.
okay, great. We've got it on the list. Would anybody else, any other projects? Oh, Sean, go ahead.
Chair, can I just say something real quick?
Yeah.
I understand we're kind of just getting an idea of how many amendments could possibly be made, but at any time, anyone can make a motion, and as long as they get a second, they'll be able to get a vote. So I just, I understand we're trying to get.
Thank you. In a couple of more minutes, we may be able to do it in one.
Okay. I just want to make sure, I know we're setting the parameters as to who's got what, and I know that the order of those amendments is important as well.
I'd just like to tag on a small comment about BMX. It's a sport that is overwhelmingly dominated by men and boys, and that's another question about gender equity. We can do better, I'm sure, but it's not, at this point, I don't think, benefiting a general community.
Sean.
In the past Olympics, there were more women gold medalists in mountain biking than men. And BMX is no exception. There are just as many champions in that field as well. To answer your question about the mountain biking line item that was added, priorities were considered from all of the citizens to be heard. And the four main projects that the money would be allocated to is the completion of the mountain biking skills area around the pump track at McAllister Park, some new trails at
So Chair,
Eisenhower
let
Park.
me just again interject and say, we were looking to kind of get an idea of amendments that could possibly go forward. We're starting to have more discussion on those amendments at this time. And I want to
And
make
it's
sure.
going to keep going on if you keep interrupting the proceedings.
Well, I just want
We're
to make
almost
sure,
done.
I want to be respectful of those who have had a chance to either make a motion or are looking for a vote rather than have.
I'm sorry, you just interrupted Sean. Can we please let Sean finish?
I've only got two more out of the four that I mentioned. The other two was the OP Schnabel Park expansion and Pearsall Park. So Pearsall Park, OP Schnabel, McAllister Park, and Eisenhower Park. Those are the four projects that were targeted for the mountain biking community.
Thank you, Sean. Please go ahead, sir.
No, I'm just listening, waiting for our
Okay.
next.
All right, Graciela, one more.
The public theater in San Pedro Park, it's down for $500,000. I was suggesting if we had extra money, maybe another $500,000 or so.
Okay. All right. So it sounds to me like we have a list that if Talat is kind of okay with this explanation from Sean about, go ahead, Talat.
Just a clarification, I thought there's an additional line item for McAllister Park MTB, 500,000. So are we saying that plus 3,000,000 to 2,500?
The 500,000 for McAllister Park was specifically for the mountain bike skills area. And the others are for the three other locations that I mentioned that don't have line items at all.
Does that satisfy your question? Okay, it sounds like we're getting really close. Amy, do you want to take up your issue as a motion?
So do I need to officially say I'd like to motion that we put D4 and D6's money back for the Leon Greenway connection, please?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the floor. Discussion?
So if I could ask for clarification, that's 1.8, you have 1.5. What would you cut for the additional? Or are you just adding 1.5 to that project?
I guess I'll just take the 1.5.
10-4. Okay, I just
I
think.
want to go home tonight, I guess.
Okay. Okay, we good? Discussion? Yeah, we got a second. We got a motion and a second. Okay, call the vote.
Motion passes.
Okay, going once, going twice. Any further points of discussion before we go back to the main motion? No?
So do we have to make an amendment now?
Okay. Okay, hearing none.
Wait. I'm so sorry. So just to clarify, so any of the things we said earlier that we might want to put forth as a amendment, we need to do now?
You need to do right now.
Okay, I'd like to amend, I'd like to make a motion to remove the Leon Creek pathway side path pilot project.
Do you have a suggestion for where those dollars would go?
Well, I was trying to free up some funds for all the other ideas that people had at the table. I'm sorry. I'd like to reduce that in full, so that would take out the 2 million. I can't read that small, I'm sorry. 2006645.
Do half a million to public.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second? We have a second. Discussion? Seeing none, let's call the vote.
I'm sorry, can I get a little clarity
Yeah.
on the motion?
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. What's the motion?
To remove that Leon Creek pilot program for the sidewalk, for the side path, to free up money for the other projects that folks had mentioned.
Okay, thank you.
Not yet, no. Any more points of clarification or discussion? Are we ready to vote on this amendment? Let's vote.
The motion passes, the reduction is done.
Yes.
Then I move for $500,000 for the public theater in San Pedro Park.
We have a motion on the floor to add an additional $500,000 for San Pedro Park Theater. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? None? Let's vote. Motion passes.
I'd like to make the motion just for District 2 for $500,000 to District 2 parks. Again, with the point, District 2 is one of the lowest funded in this current bond project, not only in this committee, but in other committees as well. And I do understand the point earlier about being slighted in past years, which District 2 is all too familiar with.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think Kathy had her hand up first and was waiting to be recognized, so we're going to recognize her motion first.
Yes, I want to make a motion that we add the remainder of the 1,886,000 to our Linear Creek program. We got 1.55. We want
Yeah,
to
so
make
the
it 1.8.
1.506644 you're suggesting, that's the number?
No, the number we want is 1,886,500.
So we have 15.
I think you would have to offer a reduction to be able to do that.
There's a reduction up there.
So, yeah.
We want the difference.
You want the 300,000?
Got it.
Actually, no, we want the difference between the 1,555 to the 1,886,500.
Yeah, so
Yes.
386.
Yes, it's 386.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay, can we have a second? We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? None? Let's vote.
Okay, motion passes.
Motion passes. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, I was requesting 500,000 to District 2 parks to supplement us in our current total for our budget.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second? Motion and a second. Discussion? Let's vote. I think you may need to count this one, John.
Okay, I'm gonna go D1. 3 green, D2, 3 green. 2 red, 1 green. D3, 3 green, 3 green. 1 red, 2 green. 2 red, 1 green there in D7. Find it. 2 red, 3 red, 3 red. D8, 1 red, 2 green. D9, 2 red, 1 green. D10, 3 green. And then 2 yellow from the co-chairs.
If y'all will follow up in the upper right-hand corner of the screen in green or red, will show us how much money we have. So we have a surplus of 1.1.
Yeah. Motion
and change.
passes. I see 21 green, 9 red, 2 yellow.
Okay, motion passes. What's next? There's another 600,000 left on the table. Elena?
Okay, for District 7, there was a park that we mentioned in some presentation that does not have any parking, Lee Creek. So 400,000. So we could create a parking scenario for Lee Creek.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
No, don't take 620.
Okay, my compadres over there.
Okay, if we could refocus on it. So do we have a second for that? We have a second. Any discussion? No, let's vote.
400 to 400.
It was, did you want to increase it to 620? Okay, so the motion is to allocate 620,000 and change to parking lot.
Hold on a second. Yeah.
So, are we doing discussion? What are we doing?
Sure, yes.
So that's a lot of money for a parking lot. That's a lot of money for a parking lot. So I'm okay with 400. I'm not okay with the other one because that's a lot of money for a parking lot.
Okay.
So we could share, but I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Hey, hold on. John, Eric,
Yeah,
can you?
for the lease park, $200,000, Elena, $200,000. That's we don't need $600,000 for parking over there. Perfect, 200. Yeah.
Okay. So it's friendly amendment. Do we have a second? Yes.
200. He says, hey, they can bill it at 200.
Yeah, okay. Let's vote.
The motion passes.
Motion passes. Okay.
Can we put the difference?
We're down
in it?
to 420,000. Go ahead.
The
Richard.
difference, oh, go ahead.
So I motion to make the rest of that into the regional park in District 6 that we took from.
Do we have a second? It's new regional park
the
for
new
District
regional
6.
Park for District 6.
So I'll amend that motion and then just restore the cuts that we did to District 6. Then that will take the rest of that.
I'm sorry, can you clarify what you're requesting, Richard?
So I think what he's describing earlier, Jim, there was a total of $700,000 cut out of the District 6 parks, I think what the motion is to put the
Remaining.
420 towards the 700,000 cuts. I mean, it won't restore it all, but it'll do 2/3 of it.
Okay, can we get a second on that? We got a second. Any discussion? No. Let's vote.
Motion passes.
He'll tell him. Okay, we're not quite done. We still have the motion on the floor.
Yeah, we gotta do the main motion.
Any further discussion? Let's vote. All right, it's unanimous. Woo!
Okay, the hardest part may seem like it's done, but I need your attention for just a few more minutes. City staff has a few things to point out to us on next steps, and then we will be able to leave for the evening. So staff, you want to update us on the next steps?
Jeanette, I'm sorry, we have one more thing, please.
My apologies, Irby.
I may not get this quite right. We'd like to make a motion that parks consider in all of their planning accessibility, and particularly for tactile projects, to be considered as we go forward with these district projects.
Can you repeat that, Irby?
And I'm actually going to let Melanie do this one.
So we just wanted to make a motion to add to the memo that accompanies the recommendations that moving forward, accessibility and tactile mapping and signage be part of the parameters for funding as we move forward in the bond processes in the future.
Thank you, District 1. We don't need a motion for that. The chairs have noted it. It will be included in the memo.
And just so the group knows, I instructed parks earlier this year that the replacement of any current park equipment or the development of any parks, new parks, all of that would be ultra accessible and will be built in. So we've made that change from a policy standpoint, but I appreciate the support, and if you'd include that in the memo, then that reinforces that.
For the record as well on the memo, as we're spending this 300 million, making sure that we're investing in sustainable materials in all of the projects that we are funding.
Also, the concern raised by community members about birds being pushed out of Elmendorf, Brackenridge, and places like that. And we call ourselves Bird City, but we're cutting down trees and we're getting rid of them. So can you also incorporate that into the memo, that major concerns for community members? We want to stop that.
Okay, I've got mapping, tactile, sustainability, and bird sanctuary. I want to just make sure that you understand that we are still going to be available to you. So if after you leave this meeting, you think of something else you would like for us to put in the memo, promise the memo is not going to go out tomorrow. We will have some time to put that together.
Yeah. Okay. We've had a request from staff for clarification on the newly created 1 point, whatever it was, for Westside Creek's enhancements. Let's call it upgrades or whatever. I think the idea behind this, Homer, was that we look at some of the earlier stretches of creek that were done, particularly along Apache and others, and work with the community to determine how we can get in and either do some planning or some shade structures or other enhancements. That's what it meant. So we can call it whatever you want.
Great. And so this is specific to adding funding for those creeks on the west side.
Yeah, west side
those
creeks.
Development.
And that members of District 5 committee would like to continue to be part of that conversation.
Yeah, and I think we've got some of those creeks going through a couple of different districts. So definitely working with the community.
Thank you for the clarification.
Get out your planners, get out your phones, mark these dates. January 12th, our recommendations will be presented to City Council. February 10th, the city council will consider approval or will approve the project list and call for the election. May of 2022 will be the election. I want to thank you all so much. I want you to actually take a minute to turn to the person next to you and just say thank you. Don't say anything else, just say thank you. Awesome. Thank you. All right. We have completed our task here, and I believe the city manager is going to give us a high five.
I am. Congratulations. Thank you very much for spending the last month and a half with us. And I know it was a lot of detailed work. And I want to thank the staff that helped with this. We had tonight is the second of 4 bond committees that are making decisions this week. So last night was streets, tonight parks, tomorrow night drainage, and Thursday night facilities. So it's a big week for the bond program. We appreciate all your hard work and dedication, and thank you to our interpreters for the last couple of meetings. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, anyone?